Hello everybody, today I'm with Nick, a web developer from WebinarGeek. He will show us the tools they develop and how they use XState in their product. Can you introduce yourself a bit, Nick?
Hey everyone, I'm Nick. As Baptiste says, I'm a developer at WebinarGeek. It's like an all-in-one webinar tool where we've got like a streaming page where presenters can stream their live streams to viewers, and it integrates all with the company's business tools as well, and all their marketing automations with like MailChimp and all the good stuff like that.
Nice. Do you want to show the product you build, maybe to get an overview of the product and where XState is used?
That's a good idea. Cool. Yeah. So what I've got now is the webinar platform. The webinar platform is actually built with Ruby on Rails initially, but for some of the more intricate parts of it, like the streaming page, we wanted to be able to use React on the front end to really get those interactions correct. So this is what it looks like as soon as you enter the streaming page. We're asking for your camera details, your microphone details, like you would see in other different applications. And this is like the heart of the streaming page. So normally instead of this OBS virtual camera, you'll see my face, but because we're recording it today, I don't want to do that to risk anything. And also I can have a viewer side by side.
We are using a Squadcast to record the episode. Maybe if we used WebinarGeek, it would work better.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So here we have like the presenter on the left within the streaming app, and then here we have the viewer on the right. So each of the viewers has got their own personal watch link to the webinar. And then when the presenter clicks on the start webinar button, then they'll be then visible to the viewer, and they can see what the presenters are doing and what they're talking about. Within WebinarGeek, we've got the option to have different slides. You can start different videos as well. We've got stuff like polls and quizzes. So if there's a poll that's been asked, then the viewers can vote on which one they would like to see. We've also got the same option for quizzes. We have a Q&A module where the viewers can ask a question. They'll be seen over there. They can be upvoted. The presenters can answer with some text, or they can even start like a live answer to start talking about it within the context of the webinar. As well as that, we've also got lots of chats as well that the viewers can interact with either publicly or privately. We've also got the option to actually bring a viewer on stage within the webinar as well. So allowing the stage options to be open, the viewer can then join with their camera and also be present on the stage as well. So they can ask questions in real time, and then once they're done, it's easy enough to head back to the audience. And yeah, I guess that's a demo for now.
That's awesome.
So,
I'm wondering, who is using your product for webinar? Teachers, cooking teachers? I don't know.
So it's a company primarily based in the Netherlands. So there's a lot of Dutch companies mainly using it, and those range from the financial sector to we've got a lot of universities in Holland using it to educate. The University of Utrecht, they use it quite a lot for a lot of their webinars. So with webinars, they're very generic, so it can anyone can really use it for any of their tools.
That's great. And where is XState used specifically on these pages?
Yeah, good question. So the streaming page, XState is kind of like the backbone of how we are able to take events happening from different sources and then kind of managing the logic in a nicer way. So we've got events coming from the APIs where we've got like Felix events coming through to say when a new chat message is made, when a new question is made. So we've got events coming from there. We've also got like our WebRTC service. So when people have joined like the actual call, and then we can listen to events over there, as well as handling any errors they have over there as well. Like if they drop out, we know how to clean that up, because often in like calls like this with the internet, people are dropping out.
Okay.
Also on replays as well, we're showing like a video player, so we want to be able to listen to events coming from then as well. When you pause and play the video, we're able to like pause any like running interactions as well, like the polls and the quizzes, like that. So yeah, it's kind of managing all these events, and then also transitioning into like different states to say what events can happen, what events can't happen. For example, starting and stopping the webinar. That's a good one, which has an inherent state machine where before the webinar has started, you're in a not started state.
Yes.
After that, you're in a live state, and only then the presenter of the webinar can say start the webinar. And then after that, when you're in the live state, you can only stop the webinar, and then you go into an ended state where the viewers can't see the presenter anymore.
Yeah, I feel XState is very suited for your use case. I've played a bit with WebRTC, with video players, and I know there are many events coming from different things, and it's very hard to handle if you don't do it strictly with state machines or options like this. So
I completely agree.
I understand the benefit of using XState here. Maybe we can dive a bit into how you use XState in your team. First, how many people do use XState at WebinarGeeks?
Yeah, so we've because the application was built in Ruby before, we've kind of got a split on the front end and the back end. So the back end, I'm normally using the Ruby and the APIs that they give us, as well as updating the WebSocket messages. And then the front end, there's mainly React developers. There's about 7 of us all using XState over there.
Great. So 7 developers using XState. And do developers collaborate with designers on XState to design the Figma, to design the states?
Yeah, exactly. We've got one designer in the front end team whose designs on Figma kind of correspond one-to-one with states within a state machine, which is we kind of use that, and then we can share the state machine with them, so they understand how their diagrams are getting mapped to the flows within our application.
Great. And do you use stately tools to visualize these state machines? I think it's better for non-developers to understand state machines visually like this.
Yeah, definitely like the visual aspect, because the designers and the product owners don't necessarily read the code. So yeah, stately tools give us a nice visual way to show what is going on with the states within the state machine. And yeah, as I say, having that map to the Figma diagrams that the designers created, they can understand, see like their diagrams kind of brought to life within like the state machine. Once we have that, we can also talk about flows within like a high level concept with a language that everyone can understand. So we know if something's wrong, then the product owner can tell us straight away, rather than having us do something and then build it all and then say it's all wrong. So being able to like spot those bottlenecks early on is like really good with the stately tools.
Yes, this is a true power of state machines. And how many state machines do you have in your code base?
Yeah, so I counted them just this morning, and we've got currently 138 state machines. They range from like small to large. Some small ones being a small throttling machine, which allows you to send an event and then only allows you to send another event of the same thing every second, as well as other ones which control the whole like big overview of the webinar. So going from like checking your system settings are okay to going to the actual webinar page. So they range in size quite a lot.
Nice. I'm wondering, when you work on a team with many developers working with XState, do you end up with merge conflicts or things like this often?
Sometimes, but quite rarely, because we've got so many machines. Normally, one developer's working on one thing
Okay.
at a time, and if two developers are working on it, then we make it known, so we can always branch off of like a shared branch, which contains some shared functionality we need at that time.
Okay.
Also, I find like because XState, the files are like the machine files are very organized with like new lines. You rarely run into merge conflicts like that. So if someone's adding to an action or a state in the same place, then normally it's a case of accepting both the changes, and it's gets quite easy. So in order to iterate on these machines, it's becomes very good for merge conflicts and diffs in general.
Yes, I agree. And do you use x84 or x85? I know it's a tough
Yeah,
question.
yeah, good question. So right now, because we've got so many machines, we're in the path of migrating all of them from XState version 4 to XState version 5, which yeah, is kind of tricky, and there's some tricks you have to do within npm to get both versions installed at the same time. But yeah, gradually we're converting version 4 over to version 5. There's also a lot of new features we want to add, so that's kind of like a big tech debt
Yes.
that's going to last for a bit longer. So we're finding like a healthy combination of people working on that conversion as well as adding new features and fixing bugs and all of that good stuff.
Are you still adding new features to x84 machines, or do you migrate all these machines to the new version before adding features? How do you do?
Um, yeah, unfortunately, normally we have to add features to version 4, so we've got to have a good knowledge of version 4 and version 5. A lot of when we go through the process of converting version 4 to version 5, we're also evaluating the machine to see how well it's running, and we want to be able to like use new features such as the inputs for machines. We use that quite a lot rather than initializing the context
Yes.
all the time, as well as like emitting events and sending machines throughout the system. We had a previous way we got to do that with XState version 4, which was a bit cumbersome, but now with version 5, we're able to do that a lot more smoothly. So the process is quite long, rather than just a file which can convert version 5 to version 4 to version 5.
Yes. Um, you mentioned that you use the new system feature of x85. What is your best use case for this feature?
Yeah, we're using it quite a bit. We've only converted maybe 10, 20 machines to version 5, but even so, we're finding within the machine and the action, you can send any event to any machine with or actor with a system ID within the whole system. The way that we're currently trying to set it up is for every machine or every actor to belong to the same system, so any part can talk to each other. With like the webinars, everything's kind of we're treating everything with like quite a bit of modularity, because different use cases of webinars, depending on if they're a live webinar, if they're a replay or an on-demand webinar, and your admin privileges, if you're a presenter, if you're a viewer, they will load different actors at the different times. So we're having having like this option to add a system ID to locate the actor you want is really nice, and it allows for all this inter-actor communication, which we, yeah, as I said, was a bit cumbersome before with React context and
Yes.
refs as well.
Yes. I saw you collaborated with Stately on an article, and you mentioned
Yeah,
a lazy loading pattern with actors.
yeah,
Could
yeah,
you tell me more about this?
yeah. So in order for like the streaming app to like not load the whole bundle of everything at each time, so like the replays will use a lot less than the live webinars because we're just playing a video. So we've modularized everything, and then we also have it lazy loaded. We had a pattern for this in version 4, but now we've managed to make it within version 5, where the actual thing doing the lazy loading is a machine and an actor itself, which is what it kind of does as a brief overview is takes a path for a machine logic and loads it within like a promise actor, because that's also an actor. Once it's done that, then it applies it to the system itself. And while it is loading, any events that you're sending over to that machine with that system ID are kind of queued and then they're all flushed when the machine actually loads, as well as any event listeners and snapshot subscribers. So it really feels like you get the power of knowing the machine's there and it's going to act in the same way once it's loaded. And you don't have to work on like dependencies or anything nasty like that. So yeah, we've got that really.
This is a really interesting pattern. I remember some time ago seeing on the Stately Discord discussions about adding a mailbox feature, that is, having a state machine that could like queue messages until it's ready to process them. As I understand, you have something similar, waiting for the actor to load.
Yeah. Generally, we've the loading doesn't take like too long at all. So the actor has to know it's going to exist before you can like send a message to it. Otherwise, well, in production mode, we don't want to fail, but within development mode, we probably want to show an error to say you've done something probably wrong because this actor does not exist. So check it exists before you send something to it. But yeah, similar to the mailbox feature, it knows it's gonna, if you send it, it knows it's gonna go to that actor once it is present.
This is awesome. I really like seeing teams taking state with its all basic APIs and creating custom tools. I really love it.
Yeah.
Maybe you have more tools like this to show us today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that shows like a good sign of a good tool, something with a good base that you can build on foundationally, create like a whole plugin architecture.
Yes,
if you will. Yeah, I can show something else as well. We've built a tool for kind of mapping machine states to React components, so we can describe them in a more declarative way. Okay, so we actually have a public repository here right now with like a bunch of XState tools that we have that I've only created a few days ago, mainly for the purposes of this webinar. So hopefully we're going to add like a bunch more things in here. But the one I want to showcase here right now is the machine component. So the motivation is you've got like a state machine, so it's got states A, B, and C, and you want to show a different component when it's in state A, when it's in state B, so on. So normally you'd have like a component like this, where maybe you interpret the actor within this component, or maybe it's coming from props or something. So you pull out its state value, and then you'll have a sequence of if else statements, or if you're within JSX, then you've got a sequence of ternaries, which also isn't so nice. But then, like if you're in state A, you'll return another component. If you're in state B, you'll return something else, and so on. So we have this helper that we have in this library called createMachineComponent, which takes in a type of a machine, which is when you do like type of the actual JavaScript machine, and then you get type safety on all the states that you have in there. So, and then you can return a component straight away from that, and that can either be an anonymous one like this or a named one as well. So state A, you return the same thing up here, but you've got it in a way more declarative way as well. And here's like a full example of that. So yes, machines with state A, B, and C. Then you create this component and then pass it some running actor, where that actor is whose config depends on that state machine.
I think it will benefit really many people. I ended up, I think, doing many if, else, if, quite unreadable code. I think this API is great to simplify the code. Yes.
Yeah, thanks very much. We're also it's in early stages, so we've only used it in a few places, but we've already seen like feature requests for like layout components as well from colleagues to say like when you've got like a parent state which has substates, then sometimes you'd want a layout component there which swaps over the children depending on the substate there. So it would be A, B in state A, B, and AC in state AC. And also forwarding some props from that'll pass to that component. You'll be able
Okay.
to use them within your states, and then we've got to work out parallel states as well, but we don't we don't really use those too much.
Okay. So yes, this is another question I wanted to ask. What kinds of features of XState do you use mostly?
Yeah, mainly actors are the huge like big thing that we use. Not we use parallel states in maybe like 10 places. We're not really using history
Okay.
states at
Yes.
all. So mainly like the basic machines, but like invoking actors and spawning actors, we use quite. We've got like really heavy use of them,
Great.
and using that for like interactive communication, spawning API runners to go and make requests to the machines, also spawning a lot of listeners for listening for events coming from other machines, especially we're using Phoenix WebSockets to get events from the API when something's happened. So we've got our own like custom from callback actor
Okay.
we've built to listen for those events coming from Phoenix, so we can respond correctly within the certain actor. So for chat, when a new chat message comes through, we can do what we like with it.
Okay. Is XState your only one state management solution on the front end, or do you use another thing like, I don't know, Rec Query, Redux, or anything else?
At the moment, it's just XState
Okay.
and some like small U states and use effects. We were thinking about like using Redux for kind of like the global store, but I quite like experimenting with state machines. They seem relatively new and visual, so I'm glad we made that bet and we got something that we're happy with.
Nice. And do you use final states? I think I like using them for instance, for the parallel states when you have two things running in parallel and each of them go in a final state. You can know when both of them are finished. Do this kind of thing.
Yeah. So the one place we do use like parallel states or final states is within like the lazy actor like manager. So when you're loading like that promise, at the same time we also allow you to load a like an API point to get data.
Okay.
So if we're talking about like the chat module again, we at the same time as loading the chat functionality, we also fetch all the chat messages. So we can do that in parallel, which is nice because
Okay.
they're called parallel states for that reason. And then once both of those have finished, that's when we spawn the new chat actor with that data already inside of it. So we can load those two API requests in parallel.
Nice. That's awesome. Maybe another question about using XState in a team like yours. Do some people find XState really hard to use, to understand? And I don't know. Did some people want to ditch XState for another thing, or did it cause some troubles in the team organization?
Yeah, like certainly at the start, the API for like version 4 was quite a lot to kind of handle, and but I think it was more the mindset of like building something with like a global store that was the tricky thing to build with. When we started building the streaming app about 3 years ago, we were with a team of like 7 developers, and we didn't have a lot of knowledge on building a React like application, sourcing data. There's a lot of ways to do things, but now I think that's generally with the community, React community in general. It's like seen a lot of development in the last 3 years and finding the best practices and ways to kind of source data and best practices for using it. But now the 7 developers that we've worked with, we've like kind of stuck together for those like 3 years, and now we've kind of got a really robust understanding of XState. Now there's a few more things to learn with the version 5 API, which is solving a lot of problems which we found a bit cumbersome before. So yeah, in the initial phase, there was like a lot of learning to do. So regularly we would have sessions to say this is a new pattern that we found within XState. This is how you're using it. So just documenting everything internally was kind of the way to go, as well as like doing a lot of pair programming with
Okay.
others. And now I feel like our knowledge is like a lot better.
Nice. And thank you for sharing this knowledge with the community, like doing this episode podcast today, sharing the source code of your create machine component. Really interesting. I think you mentioned that you specifically like the new setup function. Maybe we can talk a bit more about this.
Yeah. The setup functions I find really nice. It's kind of saying instead of inferring all your actions and guards from the state machine definition, predefine them and then use them as you like. What we found with a lot of like our previous version 4 machines was we were repeating a lot of the same guards to say, is the webinar have a certain type? Does this user have a certain ability? But now we have just like one or two guards for saying if is the webinar a certain type, and then you pass in the params of the webinar you like. So instead of having all these guards calling is webinar a live webinar, is webinar a replay, can user start the webinar, can user manage the chat, we just have these two guards like saying is webinar of type, and then you pass in those params, which are the also new thing, and then we've got like a nice like literal of webinar types that you have that you can pass in, and also a nice literal of abilities that you can pass in there. So yeah, we're finding ourselves not reusing as or not writing out as much boilerplate code for all of this stuff. So yeah, I really like it.
I can understand. Yeah, I really like this new params functionality. Being able to parameterize quads, actions, etc. It's really powerful. Yeah. Great. Thank you for your knowledge. Do you have another thing to talk in mind? Another idea of a great subject people using XState might be enjoying?
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're using it a lot, just kind of build patterns within it. So I can quickly show you how we're kind of like debugging so some of the actors we have. Let's see if I
so another custom tool.
Back to this view. So this is kind of like the development version of the app, and we've got this little icon over here, which is kind of like our debug panel for like kind of showing a bit of stuff like the webinar time, simulating some chat messages to like stress test it. But also here, this is my favorite part. This is the actor status. And this ties in with the lazy actor manager. So whenever an actor is spawned, then we will see it over here, and we can see its status, like if it's running, if it's errored or something like that. And we also have like a prettified version of its state. For example, the webinar state here is live, which is like the not started, the live, and the ended state. And we're also doing this thing to refresh the broadcast status to check we're still online. So you might see that change from idle to like fetching every once in a while. There you go. And then we've also got this inspecting. This thing I will need the console for. So if I start inspecting the webinar state, then any snapshots that are made to that webinar state module, they will appear here. So we've got state value and then like a bit of context over there. There's not too much context over there. Maybe this broadcast status one is more interesting. So you can see whether the stream's online, how many seconds it started to go, and how many viewers have been online overall in this in this webinar. This also adds it to like the URL query params as well, so you can even start by inspecting an actor as well. If I was to refresh this page, so anytime there's a snapshot update, we will get that through here, which I really like. So for example, if I was to end the webinar right now, we will get a snapshot update to say the webinar is now ended over here. So building tools like this is really fun, and gradually as we get more things to version 5, we'll see this list expand all the way down the whole screen, which I'm looking forward to.
That's awesome. So yes, thank you a lot, Nick, for all your knowledge sharing on this topic. It was a pleasure to talk with you about XState. Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. really enjoying talking about XState, and hopefully we can open source a few more of the tools that we've made in this XState tools repository. Maybe the lazy actor manager would be a really nice one to see how others can use that.
That will be awesome. I will definitely share your repository with the people following my great content creation about XState. Definitely really interesting.
Yeah, thanks very much, and looking forward to collaborating again in the future.
Nice. Thank you, Nick. See you.
Thank you, Baptiste.
Bye.
See you.